former NHS Trust Chair. You try saying that. A former chairman of an... I can't say Trust Chair. Martin Gower, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Jeremy. I was actually called by the Trust Chairman.
Oh,
Which
you don't start getting
I know,
politically
I know.
incorrect.
But
Oh,
but they were happy to call me a chairman. So there we go.
yes, but you might. That means that a woman couldn't have the job, or somebody that's transgender. Don't be so disrespected. Yeah,
Well, you see,
I think Trust Chairman sounds a lot easier to say than Trust Chair. Trust Chair.
yes, absolutely. I was a piece of furniture, you know.
Well, listen, at least you're not sat where I'm sat, because it's 38 degrees in this studio. The aircon's gone to crap. Anyway, there we go. This appalling story, Martin, I wanted your take on this today. I think we all know, I mean, all I hear about, actually, just to widen the story out from doctors, when the Labour Party came to power, all they went on about was this £22 billion black hole. And then this extraordinarily, I mean, to me, it was always going to happen. They decided to give their union mates, a couple of union mates, you know, a nice pay rise on day 3, just to show the world that they were great, including junior doctors who got, was it 22% or 23%?
22, I think.
Yeah. We've sorted it. The Tories are rubbish, which they were. It was all great. It's all great. And then now, sort of 6 months later, or a year later, the junior doctors want something else. How much more do they want now? 29%?
29%.
Yeah. The BMA, this is what I wanted to ask you as a former NHS Trust chairman. See, I'm doing it now. The BMA is known to be quite radical politically and anti-government and has its own agenda. Why does it seem to have two things: millions in the bank that it can, by its own admission, wreak havoc on the NHS? Where does that money come from? And also, is it I mean, are they the biggest union? Because we seem to hear about the BMA so often, and almost everybody I speak to, Martin, says they're dreadful. So why doesn't somebody get rid of them? Have I missed the point?
Well, I don't think you've missed the point at all, Jeremy. There are people undoubtedly at the moment who are leaving the BMA. I mean, Robert Winston, for example, I think last week resigned his membership of the BMA, eminent doctor, Labour Party peer. And there are others who are leaving, there's no doubt about it. You'll find that when they do a 5-day strike, a number of junior doctors will actually take annual leave, which is a slightly cowardly thing to do, but they won't have to walk through a picket line, but on the other hand, they won't be there either. I think the BMA are the sort of current equivalent of the National Union of Mine Workers. I think they should change their name to NUD, you know, the National Union of Doctors. They are extremely militant, and I've got to the point now where nothing would surprise me. They clearly don't give a damn whether anyone dies because of their strikes, or indeed how many die because of their strikes. But there's a second aspect to this. When you create a payroll of 1.6 million people, 1.6 million employees, which puts the NHS between Amazon and Walmart. And I know you've lived in America and will remember Walmart very well, and the size, sheer scale of them.
Huge.
You big monolithic publicly owned organizations breed powerful unions.
Absolutely right.
Inevitably. So
I couldn't agree more.
So strong.
My problem is, and I've said this to Wes Streeting, it's all well and good to come riding in on a charger. The Tories were incompetent, we know that at the end, and pretend you've sorted it. But surely somebody would have the foresight to see that these junior doctors were playing the government. And actually, I go further, which is not very popular. You'll probably disagree as well. I don't understand why a service that is supposed to provide such a fantastic service and sadly fails in so many instances for all sorts of reasons is allowed to strike. The police can't strike and the army don't strike. I don't actually believe our doctors and not nurses, but I don't think doctors should. And these people are holding a gun to the government's head, and the government has been completely sidestepped. But millions they've got, by their own admission, to wreak havoc on the NHS. And every time we try and get somebody on the show, you'll love this, they're about 11. They look about 11 years of age. They're all militant.
Yes. And of course, they're fresh out of the academic environment.
Of course, yeah. Never worked a day in their lives.
Where, of course, well, absolutely, they live in that bubble, which is essentially an extreme leftist bubble these days. There's no question that it's very difficult for anybody, even a young person who isn't leftist and sort of, you know, pro-Palestinian freedom and all that stuff. It's very hard for them to work. They come into the NHS and they're kind of already brainwashed into this method of thinking, and they don't understand quite what the end game of this could be. Um, I think, you see, if I agree with you that they should be like the police and the army and not have the right to strike. But you try and either negotiate that right with the BMA, which you
I wouldn't.
undoubtedly have
I
to.
obviously come from a different planet. I mean, if can you imagine me being? I mean, I just honestly, I tell you, I wouldn't be negotiating, and I certainly wouldn't be. I mean, I genuinely mean this. Nurses got how much?
Oh, I think it was 3.5%, something like that.
Well, I can absolutely, as a grown man of 60 who's paid tax all his life, tell you that I actually think nurses should get 20% and junior doctors. I think it's absolutely appalling that they got 15% more than nurses and that they are patently holding a gun to the head of the British people. And I think, again, you know, public opinion, it's not the be-all and end-all, but I think that people are beginning to wise up to things. And I think that this,
Yes.
I mean, you called them NUD, I'd call them DUD, and I won't tell you what the D stands for. I definitely think that the BMA will suffer massively, and I think junior doctors will as well. And I think you were the former NHS Trust Chair. I'd go further with dentists and doctors. If I had a National Health Service that was training a junior doctor for 7 or 8 years, I'd make them sign a contract that said they can't go private. They have to give me that value back for 10 years. That'd go down like a lead balloon as well, wouldn't it?
It would, but all of those things, when it comes to politicians handling them, they're not good at it. Any of the politicians, the history is awful, and I think on top of that, Jeremy, if you did try and change the law and say these folk can't go on strike, what they will do is go on strike.
Yeah.
You know, these are incredibly militant. They're the worst They're worse than the National Union of Mine Workers were at their worst.
Can we just
Worse
do?
than-
Can we just do one other thing that I mean, honestly, there's 2 little stories today, and forgive me, peeps who are listening, all 11 of you. Pupils, it tells me, are to be taught that feeling low is not a mental health issue. That's great. That's good. Yes, we have to teach that. GPs, honestly, are to make football available on prescription for depression sufferers.
Well, this story.
Sorry,
comes
what is
from-
that? Football tickets? A blow-up football? What is that?
No, this story comes from the South Cotswolds, from a place called Nailsworth near Stroud.
Yep.
The club is called Forest Green Rovers.
Oh God, it's that eco group, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. And you know, it's a vegan club and a carbon neutral club. And you know, if I was feeling a bit down and depressed, and on a cold November's dull day, I went to watch Forest Green Rovers play Boreham Wood, I think I'd end up wanting to go and kill myself.
Well, I think I'd
mean,
want to have a
really?
bacon sandwich. This is the same guy, Dale Vince. Again, he's on with Mike a lot. The other day, he backed that call by Ed Millipede, who said that the only way for, you know, net zero to succeed is the people who disagree with it. It should be criminalised.
Yes. I
I'm
know.
going to bankrupt this country. But Mike Graham, you'd know this, right? You'd know this, Martin. Mike Graham came up with the greatest line ever, which I'm unashamedly going to repeat for the rest of my life. Net zero by 2050. Da-da-da, da-da-da, no fracking. Da-da-da-da. Mike Graham goes, so what happens when you get to net zero then? Would you get a medal? Is you then got to get to -1? Because the rest of the world, right, they're not as bothered. In fact, they let out far more than us and they're not bothered, but we're obsessed with it. And in the meantime, we are bankrupt and we're going to completely bankrupt it. I mean, it's madness, man. Madness, isn't it?
We emit less than 1% of the globe's emissions. We all share one atmosphere, as far as I think I learned that in my geography at school. It is an absolute, utter nonsense. It's a cult, and we're wasting money. We're making people poorer. We're making energy costs far too expensive for business. It's a joke. And one way, if there are any black holes, apart from the ones that they're creating for themselves, if we just stop that nonsense, it would actually go a long way to solving some of our financial issues.
Martin Gower, you're amazing. I'm going to throw this out to the audience because Martin Gower said, and I quote, we should change the BMA to the NUD, the National Union of Doctors. I'm going to call them DUD.